Hello, Amanda. So welcome to our episode
Hello, Coach
2.
Jules. Thank you.
And as always, we always start with a self hug, and you can join us. So, yes, if you cannot see us on YouTube here, you can just join us in hugging yourself wherever you are.
It
So, if
feels so
you're
good.
driving, yeah, if you're driving just on a red light, give yourself a hug because you deserve it. And it feels
Switching up.
good. Yay. So if you don't see us, we're smiling.
And stretching out our back and
Yes,
feels good.
that's good. Ah, and today we are recording our episode after Valentine's Day. Amanda, how was yours?
It was really nice. My kids asked can we have Valentine's Day surprises? And I said, that sounds so fun. We usually don't do too much. Like I know some people do like Valentine's baskets, like some people do Easter baskets. We've never done all that, but I did, and it was really fun. My son has a stuffed animal he's had since before he was born. He still sleeps with it and is like threadbare. His fur, it's a dog, and his fur is like falling off. And he needed stitches. And I was waiting for my son to sew him because he knows how to sew. And I said, oh, you know what I'll do? Because he didn't want any Valentine's gifts. He just wanted M&Ms. I said, I'll sew up Paco for his Valentine treat. And so I sewed him up and put him in the bag with some M&Ms, and he was like over the moon.
Oh,
He
wow.
was like, oh, you sewed Paco. Like he was so happy. So it was a fun day, and also nice that I also said to myself, like all of February, I'm just going to work on loving myself. Like I mentioned in our
Mm.
episode 1 last week that I had this, like I'm not in love with myself. I'm not letting the love in. So it was just another nice day and a whole month of feeling like I'm my own, the universe is my Valentine. I'm my Valentine. I'm letting the love in. And it was nice to have yesterday just be a little piece of that and
Yeah,
not any other weird strings attached about
exactly. Yeah. No weird strings attached. And that's probably the first year when I'm realizing that nobody can give me love.
yeah,
The
yeah,
best part is nobody can take love from me, right? So it's all
yeah,
about just taking responsibility to love myself and to pay attention to my own needs and show up as that loving person so that all the additional love from other people and other situations is just additional love.
right. Like
So,
icing on the cake.
yes, that's why it's very important to like we talked about self-talk last episode, and one of the questions that we proposed to you guys is, what do you say to yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror? And that might be that moment when you say to yourself, like Amanda was sharing, you've got this, because you want to hear that. Or it might be just simple, you're amazing. So, and you are, and you have so many situations throughout the day where you do show up amazing. And perhaps instead of like waiting for somebody else to notice or waiting for somebody else to say thank you just say it
Right.
to yourself if that's the need. That's what you want to hear.
Yeah.
All the other outsiders, that will be just additional contribution to confirm what they see. So it's good to know and take that responsibility and not wait, right?
Yeah. I'm going to talk to my kids about that because I feel like I kind of spent a lifetime of Valentine's days thinking love just came from other people. And then no wonder that always feels so bad and never works out, because
Mm-hmm.
it's the opposite now is what I see to be true, is that love comes from me, from inside, from me letting in the love from God, whatever you want to call it, source, universe. And then everything else is just icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, yeah, like you just said, if I get love from myself, then I give love to others and I don't have to get it from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's so, it just feels so much better. It's so much more fun. I don't have to worry about kids behaving right for me to love them or get love from them or any of that. Like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
so much more freedom.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, your self-talk is such, like you said, the self-talk is a really cool place. I think that's why we said, let's talk about self-talk again in another way today. It's such an easy, accessible, always happening to you thing that you can tune into and notice where you are and take steps from there to get closer to where you want to be.
Yes.
You don't have to wait for someone else to do something. You don't have to, it's like instant gratification to be able to listen into your self-talk, instant access to moving to where you want to go.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And more you pay attention to your self-talk, more you become capable of seeing where you are and using your words to help you understand why you're saying them, most likely because you're feeling a certain way. And that's another part of this whole journey of connecting to yourself is practicing acceptance. Practicing acceptance in any form that it shows up for you through your words to yourself or through how you treat others, just accepting what is. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning. And I have lots of lessons in that regard. So that's kind of like, I guess, my second word for the year. First one is intentional. The second one is acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we will be talking about self-talk again. However, we're going to talk a lot more about I am statements because they are very powerful. Because I am statements, they are more about your identity. It's kind of like you probably remember those situations when you were maybe in high school or in kindergarten or whatever, and kids like made a name for you or something, right? Like maybe it was a bad name or something, and it kind of got stuck with you. And we all have those stories. And a lot of times we keep reliving and retelling those stories because when they say you are, so that's it. It's kind of like stuck with us. It just becomes a part of our identity, it becomes a part of our personality. We create actions from that place, we create thoughts from that place. And a lot of it becomes very unconscious conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know when I work with purpose-driven women who want to achieve certain goals, so want to improve their careers, those statements show up. And this is where we do a lot of coaching to help them understand how this statement's serving them or not serving them. So, I am statements. What's coming up for you, Amanda?
I, again, looking at your self-talk through this I am statements approach to me is amazing because it can serve you no matter where you are. If you've never thought about how your thoughts are impacting your life and what you're getting and how you're feeling and who you are, starting here is a really good place to start. And also if you've been studying and you're a coach, even noticing your I am statements is still a super powerful tool to let you reflect on where you are with your self-worth, how you're doing with letting the love in, how you're, noticing your feelings, even just noticing how much your thoughts are serving you or not serving you, how much the thoughts are impacting your feelings, and how you're getting what you want or don't want out of your life. So really it is as simple as noticing, what are you saying after you say I am?
Exactly. Well, yeah, and let me maybe give you just an example.
Yeah.
Yes, the example that I had with one of my clients recently. So when she was working on weight loss goal and had a plan. So we had a plan for the weekend because she was going out. and had a lot of access to food and the company and socializing and all of that. So when we reconnected for our follow-up session, I said, well, how did the plane go? How'd you do? And the first thing she said, oh, I was terrible. I am such a failure. I am such a bad, not following through person. And it all came with that I am statements. So it really, when she was saying that, I wanted to cry with her because they were so hurtful. And it went into this whole, I'm a loser, and went on and on and on and on. So one of the tools that I'm using, and I used with her, I ask her, okay, if we put your story aside, because this is your story, and let's just bring the facts of the situation. What did actually happen? So make it neutral. We're going to separate you and what you think about it into the neutrality of the situation. And that's also a skill. Not everybody can really separate it. And this is just basically the facts, right? So like when you go to the police station, you give the facts, that's it.
Right.
Or whatever to the court. So, and when we get to the facts were pretty simple. Like, there was food, she ate that, she ate so much, facts, 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 facts. And then I ask her, like, now you're looking at the facts and then your story that you came up with. Which one is more hurtful? Which one does sound more hurtful? And she was like, well, yeah, it's my story. Well, if it hurts so much, like, how is it beneficial? So, and these are those I am statements. And if we start paying attention to them, they're very, very hurtful. But when we look at the neutrality of the situation, it's not that bad. But it's just how we have been trained. And also, I think in that goal setting, goal accomplishment, we have an idea that this is how we derive motivation. If I calling myself all those bad names, then I'm going to move forward and work towards my goal.
Yeah.
It's usually, how it feels when you're calling all these names, you are actually demotivated. Then you're pushing, you're forcing, and you're creating more story, how bad you are, how much loser you are, and all of that stuff. So I would say, like, yes, the first tool you might have to use or might try to use, like, okay, what are the facts of this situation? Yes, I have that previous conditioning to call myself all these names. Or I can actually look at the neutral situation and say, well, yeah, this is the facts. This is how I acted. And now from that neutral place, I moved her into looking at the situation. Okay, how about it's not how bad you are, but what can you improve in your skills, in your abilities, so that you show up differently next time it comes? Let's look at the behaviors. Let's look at little tips. Like, we had a plan. Let's see how we can create a different plan that it might work for you in a different way. So that's the power of I am statement. And it's something that happened to me yesterday, that the old Jules would just call all those bad names. How, like, I had some situation with parking in downtown and I had to pay a fine. And it was just purely because of my not acting well. But I did not call myself any names. I just took the responsibility for my choice. And I was just fine to pay the fine and be okay with that, but don't call myself any names. And because I have a wonderful husband, and I told him, and of course, he's way better to me than I ever was to myself. I'm getting better. He just said, it's okay, honey. Just breathe. Do something good for yourself. It's okay. You didn't know. I kind of knew, but I didn't follow through. So to make the story short, and I felt good. I felt proud of myself. And I felt like it was just an innocent situation. I can forgive myself for that. And it's not worth the money to make myself names. It's okay.
Isn't it feel good to know to like when I started this was a few months ago, I started listening to myself talk and I realized probably within a week that I was having some situations like you just described where I did something where in the past I would have been like, oh my God, you're so stupid, Amanda. Like,
Mhm.
how could you let this happen? You're never going to figure things out if you can't even do this good enough. Like around driving, traffic, dropping a plate and breaking it, whatever. And when you start just noticing yourself talk
Mhm.
and feeling how that feels to talk to yourself that way, it was so quick, like almost within a week when I was then noticing I was still making plenty of mistakes, still breaking the plates or like, making whatever,
Mhm.
but I wasn't beating myself up. And it felt so good to be like, hey, you know what? I'm in charge here. I'm no longer a child getting yelled at by an adult or at school getting punished by adults who have unrealistic expectations and aren't that happy on their own anyway. I am in charge here and I don't need to beat myself up about this. Instead, I can let myself off the hook. I can give myself a break. I can give myself grace. I've heard people say it that way. Like, and it feels so good. It's very reinforcing. And before I knew it, my self talk had made a major change and has not gone back to beating myself up. It was very little effort was required. It just took the noticing and giving it a chance to
Mhm.
hear what I was saying about myself.
Well, and I wonder also working with myself and lots of clients nowadays, I wonder if there is a certain level of I deserve or I'm worthy that needs to happen so that from that place you become more compassionate with yourself, with your I am statements. And perhaps that's where we can go because we have this disconnect or kind of collapsing these two polarities. One, I am statements making ourselves like, yeah, not feeling good. But essentially, I am, like we talked about in our first episode, you are first and foremost, you are the emotional human being who is worthy, who deserves, and who is enough or more than enough, right? So if we take that, this is the concept that it's inherently who we are. This is our inner being. So like when the child is born, right? This is who we still are. Like that child who came into this earth and we are already inherently worthy. But I think somehow in all this conditioning of the world and how we've been brought up and all of that by conditioning of our parents, we somehow collapse this
Right.
and then kind of get messed up.
Yeah.
But if we go back to just owning, honing, and nourishing and understanding and accepting that I am, that big
Mm-hmm.
I am always worthy and I always deserve and I'm more than enough. So then everything else becomes just our thoughts and we are the inherent worth of who we are. We are not our thoughts.
Right.
That's why we're spending so much time on paying attention to your thoughts because they are powerful. They're creating who you are and how you show up in this world. And more you start separating this big concept of inherent worth from the person who acts, who feels, who thinks,
Right.
more you're going to be moving towards feeling more connected to yourself and more showing up as your authentic self. And of course, the world will only benefit if you show up as your authentic self. You'll be happy. Everybody else around you will be happy. You don't have to prove anything, right?
Right.
So yeah, what do you think about this inherent worth and how we show up? And
That reflects what I believe now. And I'm trying to think of when this was. It's been a while that I've been letting myself kind of pretend that that might be true and just see how it makes me feel and how it plays out in my life. Because I do, for whatever reason, again, I came in as a baby, totally worthy, everyone, worthy. And then you have your human experience and the adults around you try and tell you what to do. And in that process, it just happens. It's just the human experience that you get kind of tricked into thinking, I'm not good enough unless I do what that person told me to do. I'm not good enough unless I achieve this. I'm not good enough unless I have this. I'm not good enough unless I feel this way and do this thing. It just happens because the adults kind of have to tell us what to do for a while. It just happens and it's okay. And so to then be 40 something and say, okay, I'm going to just try out this idea that no matter what, I'm worthy, no matter what, I'm good enough. That's going to be my one truth in the universe. That and like gravity, we'll go with those two. And then let me see what comes to be if I kind of just pretend this is the ultimate truth and see what happens. And in having done that, I realized, okay, yeah, my life is awesome, much more awesome now, much bigger now. It's much more what I want now. I don't have to rely on other people to make me happy. If I crash the car and we have to get a new car and spend all this money and do all these things, it's still okay. I'm still so much more balanced and happy because I let myself try out that kernel of truth being that I'm worthy. And then I was able to start doing what you're talking about and saying, okay, well, I'm a worthy person who has these feelings. I'm a worthy person who has these actions I take. I'm a worthy person who has these possessions. And no matter what the feelings, or excuse me, I'm a worthy person who has these thoughts, even no matter the thoughts or the feelings or the actions or the achievements or their possessions, this can all be whatever, can change however, I'm still a worthy person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it used to be the opposite. I used to think all this has to constantly be perfect for me to have any worth over here. And you
Mm-hmm.
can even see, imagining that, that's terrible. No wonder we're never happy that way. It doesn't work. What works is thinking I'm worthy no matter what. And then, hey, I felt how I felt, and now I'm going to feel something new. And it doesn't change who I am. Hey, I did what I did. I thought what I thought. I had what I had. It can change, but it doesn't change who I am, which is a worthy person.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
get it. Like, I did not believe that as much as I do now 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And I'm much happier now. You don't, that's the cool thing about listening to yourself talk and trying out these I am statements. You don't have to believe it at first. I don't think you do. I think it's just this progressive thing where, I mean, I even said, I've been working on this for a while, and it was just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said to myself, think I'm kind of forgetting that I'm worthy no matter what. I'm not letting the love in. Like I'm forgetting the truth. Let me retune.
Mm-hmm.
And um, now
Well,
I love myself even more.
and that's the thing. So when it's the truth, you feel good. So then you know you are practicing your worth and who you are inherently as that human being. So that's why we have feelings, because they give us that sense like, is it true? Is it false? Like, where am I? What's it teaching me? Right. But like you
Yes.
said,
Is it true? And does it feel good?
yes, does it
Because
true?
in the
Is
beginning, I might have argued with you, Jules, and said, well, it's
okay.
not true that I'm worthy, but that would have felt terrible to believe that truth. So
Mhm.
maybe truth is subjective enough that now we can say to ourselves, is it true? And does it feel good? Okay, well then I want that to be true. That's my truth.
So, but if we go back to that statement, and I would um, poke a little bit there. So you said, when I was trying to say, yes, I am worthy, but is it true? And you were saying, no, it's not true. But if I would have asked you, can you give me like 5 evidences that it was true that you weren't worthy? Would you give me any?
In the past, I might have been able to say, well, I don't have a job and I didn't go get a PhD and I don't I haven't lost 10 more pounds. Like in the past, I think I could have been in a place where I could have still been tricking myself because I just hadn't made the mindset shift yet
Because
into
that's how you were,
letting those things be proof that I wasn't good enough.
because that's how you were defining your own self-worth, by all
Yes,
those external
right.
things.
My thoughts, my feelings, my actions, my possessions, what other people thought of me.
Yes, and that's exactly it. That's perfect, because that's how a lot of, I know when I work with my clients, this is the tendency, like when we are talking about self-worth or I deserve, things like that come up, like, self-care that is part of it. So I say, oh, I have my massage appointment every month, or I, lose weight or whatever. So because we are outsourcing it, but essentially what the worth is, it's that inner sourcing. It's the, like, you are inherently worthy just by your design. This is it. This is the internal worth. Everything else is just actions. But I guess we created that definition that I am worth if I have this and that, or I'm worth if I look like that, or, but really, so again, if we start looking and treating the worth as our internal possession, internal nourishment. So, and that's how you were able to switch, because you started to kind of own, this is who I am. That's it. And everything else is just, I am the person who does things however I do them. And that does not change. And this is that, like, this is that practice, like when you really practicing that you are worthy no matter what, then everything else becomes just like you are a growing human being. You are expanding, you're evolving, and you're constantly becoming, because that's what you came here for in life. So, and that's okay to act, and that's okay to do, and that's okay to learn, and that's okay to keep going. But it's not changing your internal source of who you are. So that's, yeah, very important distinguish to make, because I'm sure there are many people like that out there who are still looking and still like looking definition from the outside sources.
And I think we probably never, like, we're all here with other people for a reason, in my opinion. So I think that tendency to look outside and outsource your happiness and outsource your worth is never going to go away. But like you just said, it's a practice. So you just get stronger at insourcing, at remembering, oh yes, I'm inherently worthy. Okay, back on track. Like I just got a little too human there and forgot what I was doing. And yeah, I don't think I have lately been feeling this, like, what is it called? Like irony, or like, oh, that's so ironic that it's, yeah, when I let myself believe I'm worthy, then I let the love in and I feel very loved and loving. And to me, that means I'm connected to my higher power, my source, God, whatever you want to call it. And how ironic that I somehow sometimes say, oh no, I'm not lovable and I can't love. And as soon as I start those thoughts, that pinches me off from the real source of love. And how, that's just so subtle and tricky. But again, our self-talk and our feelings, to me, are just like indicators that are always on. Just like you're saying, that we're a machine maybe that's built inherently worthy. It just is built into who we are. And we're so lucky to have these two indicators of our feelings, our thoughts, which we can see through our self-talk, and then the feelings they give us. I feel like those are my two, like, constant warning systems or guidance systems. That takes me a minute sometimes to listen, takes me a day or two of feeling, oh, and then like, wait a minute, there's your warning again, Amanda. Time to look at those I am statements and check in with Coach Jules, or, do my journaling, make sure I'm doing my meditation to use those tools of my feelings and my thoughts to get back to, yep, I'm just this inherently worthy person. And everything else is icing on the cake.
Well, yeah. And I think also recognizing that, nourishing and practicing. And like you said, I like how you say, I let myself believe it, because yes, you're giving yourself a permission to think differently. You give yourself permission to act and become different. because you're trying to create different results and also better connection with yourself, with your well-being.
Yeah.
And I think when we essentially feel recognized and also create a lot of evidence that, yes, I am worthy, this is a state of abundance. Then from that place, you don't have to like get stuck in that, for example, I'm a perfectionist mode. Because I'm a perfectionist mode, for example, it's quite often. So like I used to be, I'm a perfectionist. I know you have those tendencies as well. So notice how I said tendencies of a perfectionist, because now we are outsourcing to, again, our behavior. And usually when we put that thought on, I'm a perfectionist, it's because we think that there are limited choices. There is A or B, and you get stuck between both. But when I'm saying, yes, I am worthy, like there is way more options, there is more choices. Like I'm a perfectionist becomes kind of like not necessary. I'm going to figure something out, right? What if I don't? I'm still worthy, right? But there are like lots of solutions, there are lots of choices. And when we are more connected with the source and worthiness, then the choices will just appear.
That's a great example of how the I am helps you. Instead of saying, I'm a perfectionist, you would coach someone to unpack that and say, I'm a worthy person who sometimes has perfectionist behaviors. And even just saying that to me, like one feels so much better than the other. It feels so much better to say, I'm a worthy person who sometimes has perfectionist behaviors. Just feels better than saying I'm a perfectionist. I don't think it ever felt good to say I'm a perfectionist. I sure said it a lot. I don't think it ever really felt good.
Well, and we just kind of make ourselves stuck in that identity. That's why the identity of I am is so powerful, because it keeps us stuck. Because now I have to think like I'm a perfectionist, and I have to feel like I'm a perfectionist. That's why
behave like you're a perfectionist.
Yeah, because that's why
other people to say you're a perfectionist.
Exactly. It's like glued to you, and that's it. It becomes your reality. So that's why if you, like Amanda was saying before, if you want to start transitioning, you might just have to practice. Again, practice. I am worthy, and I do this and that. I am worthy, and I feel this and that. I am worthy, and I'm looking for choices or whatever. So it's all about practice. So I think I'm going to use one more example that is quite popular, especially when I work with some entrepreneurs like myself, and also how it made a difference for me. So because social media obviously is out there and what we're doing right now. And when you become an entrepreneur, you start exploring social media. So in the thought that comes up with that, and what I used to use, I am putting myself out there. Again, notice how I said I am putting myself out there.
Right.
Which means if I am judged, then there is something wrong about me. Or if I am, whatever that social media we don't like, rejected, that again makes it about me because I am putting myself out there. Then again, going through everything we've already said today, noticing I am. And how about saying I am a worthy person who puts my services out there, who puts my messaging out there, who puts my pretty Canva post out there, right?
Yes.
So and then now it becomes I am still worthy. But I'm dialing in my skills of messaging, my skill of marketing, my skill of creating those, nice posts. So now it's not about me, because inherently I am who I am, but it's about me who is figuring out the way and the ways and also acting out. So, and that's how I am separating myself as Jules, who cares for herself and for her inner being, and all those, social media people who sometimes not so good to you.
Right.
So they're only throwing the stones into my skills. And it's up to me to pick up the stones and look at them objectively. Well, do I agree with what you're saying, or do I not agree with what I'm saying? So now I'm just kind of evaluating. I don't agree with your input. I'm not going to take it. Or I agree with your input, and that's a good point. I'm going to add to my skill set. So then now I am not bad. I'm not terrible. I'm not bad coach.
Right.
I'm not bad whatever. I am who I
Right.
am inherently, but I can also improve my skills. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm here for, growing as an entrepreneur. So that's why, for those of you who are listening to our episode and you are that entrepreneur who is very intimidated with social media, so the work could be done, but this is where you can start. Again, notice your I am statement. Do you say to yourself, I am putting myself out there and nobody likes me? Which is also not the truth, because if you have some followers, somebody likes you. There's at least one person who likes you.
And even if it is the truth and it doesn't feel good, you get to create a new truth.
Well, yeah, first of all, you create that permission to agree or permission to not agree. Because again, if you look at the objective statements, you understand if people are just, saying them out of jealousy or whatever, because they have their own experience and we cannot control that.
Right.
So just for you to decide, like, oh, it's a great point, I will work on it, or I don't agree with you, and that's okay.
Right.
So yeah, and that creates a lot of freedom and a lot of release. And as you're writing that social media post, that's what also separates you from your services, because yes, you have a service heart, you want to help people, and that's awesome, and that's what you separate from what it makes about you. You're
Yes.
so
Yes.
worthy,
That's so
who
good.
likes to serve people. That's why you're going and using the tool of social media to create your magic, to help out, because that's what you want to do, not because you want to make yourself good. You're doing it because you love the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And you could apply that to anything you do in life. Parenting, being an entrepreneur, working for the company you worked for 20 years, letting yourself catch your I am messing this up and turn it into I am a worthy person who,
mhm.
and then see if you can make your thinking statement or a feeling statement or an action statement or a having statement. Just create that separation. And in that gap, I feel like you've coached so well about that with me. Like letting yourself create a gap often just lets you see a new way of thinking and new truths and things that feel better. So letting yourself say, I'm a worthy person, and then fill in whatever's over here, no matter what you're worthy, you create a gap to let you reflect on
Exactly.
how it's making, how is that true or untrue thought letting you feel? How in alignment is it with who you really want to be and who you really are?
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's that gap, it's that pause where you are who you are, and these are your thoughts, and you're just
Yeah.
kind of inquiring into them, and you're becoming, because of your practice, you're becoming more and more proficient with your thoughts and separating them and looking at them
Yeah.
from an objective perspective, from your inner source of the being
Mhm.
to help
Mhm.
yourself to perhaps ask two questions. There are two powerful questions you can ask when you separate your thoughts and start noticing them. One is this thought serving me? Right? So like we do have a self-coaching podcast. So we try to help you by creating these inquiries and learning about yourself to move forward to the results you want to create. So question number one you can ask, is this thought serving me? And then the second one, kind of similar, but sometimes you might like to ask this question, which is, what is this thought costing me? Like, how much is it costing me? For example, if I'm a perfectionist, then how much does this thinking costing you? Is it helping you to move forward? Is it making you to feel good? Right? And sometimes there are thoughts that we really, really like, just, yeah, that's the truth. And that's okay. Then again, ask yourself, even though this thought is true, do I want to continue thinking it?
Right.
Is it really going to help me? And that's sometimes, and we're not talking about the affirmations. Like, for example, I did some coaching for my amazing Mary Kay team that I do have weekly coaching with. And we had a lady who I was coaching, and she kept saying that I'm not a Monday person. I'm not a morning Monday person. And I hate Mondays. And she just was very, very firm about how much she doesn't like Mondays. And then she said, what am I supposed now to think? I enjoy Mondays and I love Mondays. And this is not what we're asking you to do, because no, you cannot go from one extreme to another extreme. But as she was talking about her Mondays, that thought for her sounded like there's a skyrocketed building, like in New York City. Like, it was a huge thought that felt so heavy. She felt demotivated. She felt de-energized. She just not looking forward to the entire week.
Right.
She was in resistance. So, and I just asked her, like, no, I don't want you to go and say, I like Mondays, I like Mondays, I like Mondays, because you don't. So, but how can we just soften that thought? How can we create like this, ladder to go to the next level that feels a little bit softer, that gives you different feelings, that sets you up for the week in a different way? And when you become a self-employed entrepreneur, you'll actually create how you want to create your Mondays. But for now, how can we step into that now?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what we did a lot of work about yesterday, to help her soften that thought, to create different feeling out of it. And now she's up for practicing it. So just, yeah, those kind of gaps in that moment of gaps, in that moment of pause, this is some tools you can implement. So like we talked about, create the facts, separate I am from facts, going into that neutral position, and ask those questions. Is it serving me? How much is it costing me? And how can I soften my thought, moving towards how I want to feel, moving towards how the results I want to create?
Mm-hmm.
And simply just kind of sitting there, maybe in the end of the week, and just writing all your I am statements, just knowing they're there, but that's not who you are.
Yeah,
Anything
I
you
agree.
want
I
to
love
add
that.
in the end here?
Well, to wrap up, I was thinking, what a fun practice people could try at home to jot down the I am thoughts that you noticed, because the ones that's what's going to stick out to you is probably what was most painful. And letting yourself write it down is a great step towards that, creating the space between the space you need to realize you aren't your thoughts, you aren't your feelings, you aren't your actions, you just are worthy. And then maybe next week, I wonder if it's, maybe we can talk more about how do you then get the skill of softening what you're saying to yourself? How do you soften up your I am statements to make them be serving you? Because in our, we will email out to everyone who's on our lists. So if you're not on our email list, you can go through social media to get on our email list, but we'll email out to you the replay of all the podcast, and with it a tiny summary. And so Jules asked those two big questions: is this I am thought serving me, and what is this I am thought costing me? How much is it costing me? So you could start asking yourself that. And I would think the next thing you'd start to wonder is, how do I go from saying I'm not a Monday person to an I am statement that does serve me. And it is just like Jules said, it is not necessarily that you just flip the statement all the time. It's not that you just go from saying, I'm not a Monday person to I am a Monday person. I think we get tricked by like a little bit of that positive thinking mumbo jumbo that can happen sometimes where we just think, oh, we'll just fix it, just switch it. And that doesn't always work. It's sometimes, can't always get there from there. And so that subtle, gentle softening up the I am thoughts is another skill you can learn and get coaching on. And maybe that's something we could talk about in another podcast, is how do you start to do that?
I think you did make a great point, because that's what I a lot of times hear people get confused, like, well, I do my affirmations, especially when they say like that with that tone of the voice, I do my affirmations. Well, but you don't believe them. No. So, and of course, there is like a lot more deeper coaching that could be done. So, like, what's going on with that Monday statement? Because everything that we say, there is also an opportunity for learning, because that statement is teaching us something. And of course, like usually in one-on-one sessions, I dig deeper to understand the root and what it was covering. And usually there's some kind of fear or, other like conditioning parts that prevent us from moving forward. So while we kind of dig into that root of it a little bit, not too much, like I'm not going into childhood or whatever, just kind of understand, how's this statement been sort of like helping in a way? What can we learn from it? And then understanding that, now we have compassion. Now we have that acceptance. Oh, that is like that second benefit for me saying those things. Now I understand that. Now that is more compassionate. And then we can start creating like, okay, now to move forward. So how can we create that soften transition to create a state of believing and then practice that belief, like you were saying, just allowing yourself, like, I'll let myself show up as this person or saying those things, because I know they essentially going to help me, like for this person, to enjoy my entire week, right? Because she starts her whole week with that whole thought.
Right.
And then a lot of times she was saying that it's just, she's very negative throughout the day. And she's like counting her minutes until the day is over. So that Monday becomes her Tuesday, and that becomes her Wednesday, and becomes her Thursday.
Right.
And then she says she goes to bed and she does feel good.
Yeah.
So this is how much her thought was costing her as we were digging deeper. Right. And then when we understand kind of like severity of the whole situation and bringing her questions, that she realized like, well, yeah, it's just, yeah, like I am ready to move forward to something different. So that's that level of acceptance, because we're not running away because we're afraid or we want to change something or we hate it. We're creating the acceptance and then trying to create what she really wants and how she wants to feel, and just start moving with that accepting place forward. Yeah, that's where the power is, because like, we always want to like change something because we hate it.
Yes.
And moving forward from that energy, it never lasts. And that comes up with all those bad statements.
Yeah.
So it's time to change. Okay.
And that's just a wonderful example of the power of looking at your I am statements.
Exactly.
Like, just letting herself hear that how is saying I am not a Monday person. So how is it serving her, and what was it costing her? Like, is costing her the whole week, is costing her happiness. I mean, that is the power of looking at your self-talk, because then you can begin to soften it up and move towards a little better feeling.
Exactly.
Change and change you want.
Yeah, I think we'll just complete our second episode on self-talk, self-love, and self-compassion, just by saying or summarizing: change your thought, change your life. One thought at a time, you created a miracle because that's what we're doing. We're shifting our perspective. And when we shift the perspective, the miracle happens.
Yeah.
So we want you to have a miraculous journey. And also we want you to feel that you are the miracle into this world. And that starts always with you. And it starts with your thoughts. Create the miracles.
Well, thank you, Jules. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Amanda. It's always a blessing with you.